It's content time. Welcome to the first edition of Pedal Review. Today we are going to be doing BD2 and a ds1 little shootout. I kind of just got the BD2. I've not really used it too much. I've always been a ds1 standboy my whole life, so let's give it a little tone. It's going to be coming out these headphones, so we'll be right there. So we'll do a little BD2 first. Pretty decent tone, I would say. Pretty solid. A lot more clean than if we throw a ds1 on there. Thing is, with the ds1, it has a definitely higher circuit output. Has definitely a lot more distortion and stuff. Well, in the name, obviously, but if I crank up that distortion just a tad bit. But a lot more output. Sorry for my shitty playing. But definitely a lot more coming out. Here are the pedals up close. Here's the BD2. Power on. Here's the Boss 1. Power on. I'm running this through just one of these cheaper kind of Fender amps. These are a Mustang, kind of popular, like newer amp that just came out from them. Don't mind the talk box, but that's what they look like. I would have to say the winner's gonna go to the BD2 because of just the output and overall sound of it. Sounds a lot better than a Boss because it has more circuit and it's a lot more, tame than a Boss that has a fuzz output that kind of breaks your circuit. It's a good sound if you want Nirvana tones and other things, but if you're looking for a classic drive like me, then you want the Blues Driver for that tone. Not saying that this pedal is not like good or anything, it's per Pacific tone. So I would say for me, this episode of Pedal Wars, the Blues Driver wins. Now let me demonstrate some other tones you can get from these pedals. So, as I showed you, I kind of showed you the minimum drive from each. And I also cranked the ds1 to show you that kind of tone. So let's crank a Blues Driver. Put that level. We're going to put it at 12 o'clock. So I'll show you real quick. Sorry for the camera. Got that kind of at 12. So let's see how long it goes. So a pretty decent tone you can get from the Blues Driver if you decide to crank it. Me personally, I like that little drive because it sounds really good with like a delay or a flanger. But obviously, as a male, I'm gonna crank a ds1. So let's crank her up real quick. Alright, Drinking a ds1's fun though. You get definitely a tone from that. If you keep her at low though, you can get sort of a close. Sounds a little like a super overdrive, so that's nice. Now to the final bit of this segment, does it wah? Let's test both these pedals out with their wah abilities. First we're going to do a blues driver. So minimum output, so we're going to have that at maybe like 8 o'clock. So that one does wah. You get a wah, and obviously this one wahs. That wahs. So both in do and indeed wah. Now in our final bit here, I'm going to tell you kind of like the history of the ds1 and the blues driver. So the ds1 is kind of Boss's first overdrive pedal. 1978 it came out, and a lot of players used it. Not really in the beginning, it was kind of not that popular. I would say mid-80s, that's when it started, and 90s, of course, with Kurt Cobain. But I'd say early adapters of it were Steve Vai. Steve Vai used it on a few albums and stuff like that. But the ds1, it took a little bit of time before it became a mainstream pedal. And then finally the BD2, released 1995. It's trying to get like Brixton reverb sound, where it's a little spicy, but you know, you can hear it kind of going through. But that's like the main tone of one of these. A lot of players use them, like Andy Tillman uses a blues driver. I mean, Green Day uses a blues driver. They're a punk band. That's a weird one. There's a lot of players that use the blues drivers. A very, very recently popular pedal in these past 20 years. And that is the ending. More may be coming soon.